conversation on that specific meeting, on the basis that the Sukuta traffic light shooting happened in Sukuta, and NPP had their grand meeting in style in Sukuta. Oto abe kumaya la ba o police ol fata Sukuta sate lokono. NPP murunta yele meeting ba to Sukuta sate lokono. Abe kumaya la puruka kuli jibe o meeting o Kenya la nin kuli min tambita komanto anin mimbe kere nyima sakunda. Anin ku kote ngol minni wal fadata. Baremba kuo damu tala damin wala nyinte ko Gambia banko kan. Mobe ya kalam tala ko on the 13th or on the 12th of September 2023. Mole polisi sababunje ay fulafa kilintuta baluoto. Nyinkeda muntola akita Sukuta sate la kono. Nyin Sukuta sate wala keda sate te mi yalon ko NPP murunta je pour ka meeting ba ke je. Bare ku killing for malka kawaba. Kado nimma sakunda be siring. Ku keda sate to ifamata je ni tata je eka sate mol konton wo ko nyinnale ena dungi ila politiko kono. Amara wala mhadama yati wala mo kende yati ntolla yatu. But there is one thing that Gambians are not paying attention to. Since the killing of the cops and the exposure of government complicity or potential government complicity, the government has closed its lid on this particular case. What ning NPP la mansa kunda murunda Sukuta to have a meeting, a grand meeting like that, it is important to reflect on such gruesome activities that did happen in that community. But not even a word about the killing of the cops that happened in Sukuta, and this being the first time since that incident happened that the president visited that community. Why is the president locking his lids on the killing of the cops? Why has the president been consistently silent on the killing of the cops? Why does the president not reassure the people of Sukuta of security and safety? Because the president's regime is complicit in the killing of the cops. Nimfa matela nateya kawa kuol dol kete jemini alon ko imanke kukendoloti. The best thing to do is to actually sympathize with you and assure you of your security and safety. That such things we hope that our government will do everything masterminded by the same government. And that is why the NPP government has consistently been very silent about the killing of the cops. If a different entity was complicit in the killing of the cops, it is going to be a big thing for the regime, and they will continue to mention and to re-echo it. But the regime has constantly been very silent about the killing of the cops, and they hate for it to be talked about. They hate to hear me say who killed the cops. But ite manku ke bulume do simme do mona kete silandi wo fola. Kadu naltara sabi jisade kono dami yalon ko police fula fawala do. Abe kumala la lesate mol reassure of their safety and security, and of course remind them of that incident that happened for the first time you went back, to that particular community as a political entity, because you are a complicit political entity in the killing of the cops. Wale atin nalman fem fono je. Bara ko nga fala nyamin drong alla after political lambe political di la anun sign dum bebe ta political anun political ni kata wala de kata la damin to mi yalon ko moli hati e kala mata yalon ko karde amola de mi yalon ko sa coup sinon tolma wala sa nafas soto nyaja gambia political be wala nyama min ye kala mata hadama dim hani man ka kunda hanin tol la yato dunia be wala nyama min ye kala mata ko wala kala mata aduna yeg la ñu la yenga yeg len ko la ne haj ne ko haw aduna fala tollu oto dunia be wala nyama ida sile ya ela fi mo be ne tare ya ni sula dam molle ka dum mol kanni adama do nyo kala mto wala kuma da balwo kon woto sayam for that temple to me alonko is not just advocating for the right things to be done, because nyima sakunda membe jede itaku kendo kela they will not do the right thing. So therefore it is important that you look into our society and see people that align with your goals and objectives and work collaboratively and collectively for the greater good of this country. Because at the end of the day, many beje will tackle and no amount of advocacy and talk will actually change the narrative because they are hell bent on massive corruption and of course looting the state resources at the rate nobody cares. Because is a combination of people and individuals who are only after their individual interests. You told them but having asked why the government did not open a lid on the killing of the cops and its continuous silence on the killing of the cops reveals only one thing: complicity. Oto police olofa. Gambia mansa kundale along me police olofa. Ye fada lilo minka moli olo na kato ale fani yale minufo akuoto wale ya lankena malako ni mankuke woto manya na kufola je mimanke tonyade wala ale tonyata no mimbe foje waya tandile ko ale kulong police la sayato wale ati naltara sabidi hanika ke kondongo kuo fongala wala ka foyo ko nalbebe nyin kuo kono la andung amalo warta baka na balafa warta numba ensure la kusifal kana ke jam ko you did not do that because you don't want to open a lid about the case because you know your complicity in the case. The president cannot continue to ignore that case because we will hold you accountable. But I've been laughing to take a lot of time on who killed the cops because that case is almost ending. I hold the belief that the last witness should have been the final. For whatever reason, they did say that the defense counsel wanted another witness. For whatever reason, I do not know. But I did hope that Kathleen was, in my view, the last witness for the defense counsel. And below motility me alonko, excuse me, it took 2 years, 1 month, and 21 days. A lactating mother and her little brother, innocent people, are languishing in Gambia's jails. But a Gambian kulu momaja ko nyimu kulete mi yalon ko tonyata no lomo tilimbali yalomo kuri yalomo mi yalon ko nyimman sakundala bake kan purka wuli ka joko al wuli ali tonyata manije. They won't do that. But they can mobilize as many people as they can, of course, waste state resources to go to the same Sukuta and of course act as if they did nothing. But what Sukuta sate kono fatol ma wolle la kordal boy salaji. Fatol le mam modol ke woto bayolti, fatol mam modol le ke yantangolti, fatol mam modol le ke strangers in their own communities. But al kata wolle afanan katandi ko sembo batol le bulu. Momang kuno je. Ko nga fale nyami masa killing jamana buka dunia bang. And then whatever people support. You hear people tell you, but MPP might win here and there. Nobody cares about whatever you think. What we care about is to support what we support with clear conscience and conviction. And believe that one-to-one we can convince each and every Gambian to understand that this regime is hell-bent on what is not good for the common good. Because you cannot be ruled by the worst of society as in a kakistocratic regime. That you don't go to Sokoto, you destroy people's houses, destroy their home. Ye dole ke bayolti, ye musola bungol tinya, ye la kodal tinya, ye ke yantangolti, ye mol murundi, ye joyandi fangol la sate kon, ye ke luntangolti fangol la sate kon. Eko eta je mitin ba ke je kuma manel foje ka, kuma tilimbalol foje min diate eta ko wala diate te katato lo masa kundati. But we will go into the specifics because one thing I do know is I will not talk about the Minister of Agriculture because somebody who cannot distinguish weed from a crop. Ndeta diamula wala kula katu we alonna ko ate malong amano atakeno la wato we kumo fodro wala ka balu dalela wala buka balu ko londo le bebul ham wala bebul fenne bebul mi yalon ko they can actually put into productivity. Out of those people's lack of productivity, their entire life is dependent on what they can actually say, to actually get, welcome into the NPP. So if they use their verbosity to actually get into, one position to another, it's not competent. So one man can tell the problem. But let's look at it from an intellectual perspective and of course have a discussion centered on one of the ministers who actually we worked together back then at the University of the Gambia. The fact is that I've worked in the higher education sector for several years. And, both as a student, as a staff, as a lecturer, so I have quite an understanding about how the higher education sector works. And specifically the UTG, to be explicit. Amanyinya, amanyam, amalo warta, abalafa warta, that if I leave academia, and went into politics and to use my political platform to demean and ridicule a former student of mine. It compromises academic integrity. It exposes your lack of wisdom and knowledge in your subject matter. It exposes your lack of intelligence and basic common sense and functionality as an academicist. Because near okay, you bridge your contract with the institution that you were working in. You know, the person you did that to should be able to sue you, and of course you will actually go to jail for lack of consciousness of what exactly you were doing. Because fahamu balialong baranta buka modol blame ni aja mbuke blame ninka force yada momi mbuka fam manankuno ye platform odi wala ko e diamo daf de piw so piwe da ngay wax lu ken xamul because di taxaw di xol sa moromi goor di ko nanne kar you know ate mam futa so alkajalo ko o mange ko ka o mari tawtali ama fahamu la malong ye ka foje dre piwta is lack of preparedness. But of course, lack of preparedness on his side should not constitute any emergency on the side of the people he was provoking. The fact is that we must be able to distinguish academics from politics. If you work in an academic institution, for whatever reason you move or transition into politics, leave everything academics in that academic institution and go and do your politics. Abukola Bia, I've taught a lot of people in their hundreds and probably thousands. Abewol kono some National Assembly members who are from the NPP. Up till date, all we see is mutual respect. Up till date, there are some of just last week, I was just talking to one of them. Even though I don't like his political party, I don't support his political lining, but we actually speak on facts. No matter what, there is that respect and decorum. Because I have joined a political, entity that does not align with his political whatever. That does not speak of the person that I am trying to actually ridicule, but it speaks of me, the person trying to demean another person. It speaks of my intellectual nothingness. Metonyala fola nunyoe. Banko katama ni ntonyala. Andong abebu kafo na abe kafo nyolon kunda konto nyinin kate woto ko nga fala nyamin si semi ya kilo la marché ko no chocho ko dingol borendi fodanta mam moje mi yalon ko wolle be president wona la dandan na mol min yalon ko wol se mo barandi no ala yalon kila yalon do si ñame wax do si deger fit do si am xam-xam do si dara albeti limbali amin na banko ka wala nyanta danna wala yatinna imurumurun te du labe jibe yaaje konko nyim fondin kele min ka fude ko Gambia needs a new dynamic political landscape. Mi yalonko, it's going to be based on principles, it's going to be based on informed decisions, it's going to be based on miya lonka manke nyonne ni no kaja fodi bare nyinne bentolo bulu nyinne batolo bulu alnanga kachannu kulla min yalonko wala bedde ninna banko samanyala ni wala sida yaje ko moro kare den danga mirete de ite santol ma ko no kulale ngom badu nge kuma ni ngaje ko naina mbenga nyinda dan no nyola ngakafunu nyoka ngaje ko nganyim banko bon ita min na man kuma ni la telefono la nda sanje fula mba fula jahu kildi kopsi na ma fonte fanko moro bare yibe nyim min na tende antanga mira ku kendelo wara mba fula nyim masa kunde ala tilimbal yal ni kubula. You never cared about what I got to say. All of a sudden you want to ngabuga ma dekal fu ma dekut yo ya kan man duma nyonyo de konga fala nyami nyolon kunda konto nyini ngata je so woto amanjare kole sia. So I don't oppose the opposition. My focus is on the regime. Why lena nak ñu xam ko ndol manke o moltem who actually play that intellectual whatever, or who actually come to play the bigger guy. We don't do that. We live a reciprocal life. Lo ñu jox rek ñu jox la lu mel nonu. You come with respect, we give you respect in its maximum. You come with something else, we give you exactly that. Because the fact of the matter is that we came from typical communities, and Tolma Wolikata ni moloko, let me just act the bigger guy. What bigger guy in what sense? Or because you went to school, you got a first degree, you got a master's, you got a PhD, and so what? A PhD only qualifies that I can conduct research independently in my field of study. That is it. Na doko mun na doko ladi baran hada madingol temu mun hada madingol temu ladi ni hormone mbunya tan di jengo murindi kan fa sen ya set ni hormone dayati li na do ngata na ko moro o mo den ko lati mo be sa dunnole na politiko fotata wala tembota manjare nyo nyanyin nade bara butum be nyo kono to diala la kajo ko a Gambian are convinced to actually join what you believe will bring about a meaningful change in this country. Wata molal nyanta min kalam dala wala nyante ko people believe in molmin ye kuliya ye mutam molte ye hadama ya tilingila wata aldu mol kan to talk to them individually, families, talk to every other person, tell them that Gambia needs a new dynamic, needs a new path in our political space. Ngo kukilimbuka tu. Kukilimbuka tu. Ante tala lara dami yalon ke ba falanya ko moro en dol tara janne hani kuta atawo nyama dunia be nyami wala nyenti ko. We look at what is in the greater interest of this country. Put personalities aside, put certain dislikes aside. Yalon ku kotembe je mi yalon ko nyimban ko mol nyanta ka kacha. Let's say for instance tol do ba dingol, yakate fama for a certain level, but you equally, ilaf talete batamin taki dingol kana wataki. You struggle your struggle to get to a certain level so that your children do not struggle the struggle you struggled. But you have other people when your children grow, because it take kato minke, you gave those people probably a decent life. Ikoi be all hate like, be all caricature like, be all castigate like, be all konna. Dilen dekal funyi dekut simply because your parent did try to give you a better living. No, alkan alin karin alkan afenke katu wala kordala kono wulu balle kataraje, trying to actually demean, ridicule, and of course label people in a way that is not. Baronyol ni mo ko dongal minika fale ko modol la ko dal ko wulu balle be je ni wol kera president wol ni wol nena nyata nyojal. But atemi mo president de do ba dungo mi yalon ko imam fenso do bi, you have millions and millions, probably billions, from where? O manga sunyarot. Walla ka fo mole ko no am na nyo hamata they have big dogs. But if people have dogs in their house, what is wrong in having a dog? You're discriminating dogs? But again, if people have dogs for security reason, that tells about insecurity in your regime, because only one person is secure in that country. It's you, because you actually covered yourself with the Senegalese military and whatever economic you have in there. Every other Gambian molbe mol fala molla banko kanko tanateje. Alko kumata fola wato. And then they want to make us believe that, they can use money to entice Gambians to come out in their numbers so that they can actually, do those personality calls, and of course show people that, it's a crowd contest. Crowd contest, yet people with sense will ask the question. Atol nada nyin sukuta sabi jam. Fayman police full of fajan neto. Allah man sakunda e muneka woto. Na manke tilimbalianin tajidintianin ka wandi dingol min ya muta min ya lon kay man ko ku kala ke sorong nyala mi ya lon ko tilimbalianin tapaliala ba ko ka ndam malong. Where in the world I have never in my wildest dream think that somebody, a suspect that you said you were tracking his phone, ite bo muta la yola telephone muta ya format auto Gambia phone nkelu. Batando we basically know where the problem is. The solution is a collective responsibility. Put those differences aside. Have those conversations where necessary. But if where you feel that our ideas don't align, nta respect and allow you to do whatever. But ni lafta ka tin tan ni nako itala balo firin damba tan dila ko banasal benaki no fam mantol si. Ta dunia be wala nyama. Dunia be wala nyama, lata wala nyama. Ita ta ngantata jamane nyoy. Bara kwaitan tole bela lako masakunda mimbe Gambia manke masakunda kendet mini be do ko wala je wol fongo idamal ma nyola interest soto. Imagine people who don't have each other's interest, you think they have the collective interest of the Gambia. No, each of these people are looking for ntebe palace kar soto nola nyadile ntebe nyimbanko mole nakar nola nyadile. How can I enrich myself and my family? But then they will try to tell you that, come you know, just to make sure that my daughter lives a comfortable life. Tomorrow, momi yalon ko ita malon ngandi ngokulu nyame, ita malon tanga batamin ke poe futa level, ita malon tanga komimbe taki puru futa. Ite woje dore ko you know, nyini yalon they are elites, whatever, you know, you just describe them, whatever, you discriminate them, you hate them simply because of what they got some financial muscle. Kan mo la ko hany and by sohor. The labels and the definitions we put there are just out of wickedness. Waldu manjari hadamadu isondo mo yele. Envy is really bad. It's good to really look at people and the lives they got, and you're like, you know what? I want to get there. Work hard towards that. And of course, achieve it if you can, and people will be happy for you. But I go more on nema la fikar boy karnyol yala dunta jabore jano mon diam sifal. Ita man karnyol confess na fo boy yalo nyin fonkol you know tol mun ser they have this, they have that. Ndala ma hajila bot. Brother, sleep in the Gambia today, go and sleep in UK tomorrow. If I believe in the ideas and ideologies that you see, and I believe that you are genuine enough, and of course you have the greater interest of the country at heart, I will support that to the best of my ability. Don't see them today. It's just like a lot of young people have this attitude. You look at somebody in their 50s, you in your 25, 30, you want to be him the same day. Did you know his path? Did you know how he got there? Did you know what his parents, his grandparents, his lineage did to get to where they got to? Nebe mo konna konto nyakang. Nebe la fela mola la fala to nyakang. But one thing that we got to understand in the political space, it's not basically mostly about ideas. Because if it is about ideas and intellectual potentials, sometimes it's about the person you want. But at some point too, it's about all the dirty games that some of the people play, just like the regime in the Gambia. But I mean, for when the jackal NPP la meeting lang, I'm an NPP ko itol ning APRC lebe from coalition. But I'll go metinala. Yet you have Fabakari and his people sitting there, Jammeh being castigated, but it's the Jammeh that you people said you are running his party, and of course you are in coalition with the regime that is castigating that same man. Who are you there for? Are you there for the APRC, or you are there for your individual positions that you actually got in this government? Hey, alankana nene. Nimasa Kunda is a combination of greedy individuals who are only after their self-interest. They don't care about whatever. Because imagine, not a political community to get political position in the Gambia has become something of very crazy tactics. Let me get $1 million, register a political party. Tomorrow, I go and join the regime. They actually give me a position in government, and I become, the toothless bulldog for the NPP. Just like the Citizens Alliance. So it is important that the University of the Gambia condemns and of course cautions some of their professors, because you cannot use your students' grade to demean them at a political rally. It's intellectually dishonest. It actually exposes intellectual nothingness of those individuals who are doing that. Gambia mbele kantaje. Afuarum a middle, income earner or whatever you call a rich person, whatever. We are all equal there. Don't discriminate people in those lines, pretending as if you are a poor person when in reality. But the president within 1 year, Allah within the 5 years, you have over 200 million. Kuno mole ta jere ba jakani fantangol dunna ita ka fo dole ko wundu balle be la suwol kono ni kede president de mote jela jang. But how can you even determine that nim mol kede president de mote wal jela itam president de mala kede jel wolo karanten lokeli ngama kabring before 2016 ma fa janni be kala president de nara mitino la brufu ngo ka bentange yo fi ko nyinno kom fay boto do kolam joto na ko teje bar botum kom fay botum e ko holom holom. But let's bring all those conversations to perspective. And you listen to Ahmed, Ahmed Balom for Ahmed Balom. There are key takeaways to take from that man. Yaje I don't know of other people, but I begin to love you because I keep wondering, why does everybody dislike you? There are two things. Either you kule ke mi ya alon ko anin tilimo ninto nyamanta, wala you kule jeto mi ya alon ko shilata wolle be konka wala and wasiaran to laban ko come back. I'm already mini along. I saw somebody, he created a fake Facebook account. Me along, you know, my side la dan talk the anchumakir. Great Facebook fake account. Agaw kumatilimolo fundilingo banyolong kunda konto nyinkari jendo ke relax. You can like your CC or whatever, however you want it. You know, that's not my problem. When I talk, I don't talk about personalities. I talk about issues. Many along ko wal be denta wala la nuntonya nyanda follow wala do. But look at what Ahmed said. He said they will do everything possible to cross UMC. Everything possible by whatever means necessary to cross a movement that did you nothing. Ite lafta mansaya le lafta tulaje nyuko. Atoliba tamandi ka nyamin tolumalla wala alla policies nin tol lafta minna they don't align. Albe Gambia sambaka nyame manke tilungo nin tonyari. Ntolbe nala these are our policies, these are our programs. Lafta falindro keleten lafta diamula banko molle ya joko. Ntollo multi mini jarata ntollo multi mini nyande dako you will cross those people by all means necessary. For Gambia matol la keta banko leti for. But that also speaks to one thing. You see, I am not against a lot of commissions that were established in the Gambia because they were able to expose a lot of rubbish that were happening in the country, including the terms of some of those NPP guys like Sirifo Sonkonimo, Kotongol, Minyalonko, Kabribe, Brikama Area Council, Nindula, Kotongol, including Banjul, even with the current mayor and other people. The specific target was what was not met. Aliya wuli mini kam alman na wol soto baral nata mol soto alma mun wuli mini kam ka tapaliyan intilimbaliya be fare wolleto moro yaje alka mol ko nyamin do alka dolla you give attention to other people towards them. I've always had my reservations towards certain people, but the more you actually dislike them, the more we sit back and reflect because we have brains and we can think and we can tell what is genuine and what is not. Just like a group of folks jumping at protest at the backwater dump site. Let me give you the genesis of that. Don't expose your ignorance too much. Because hani mini latela numfo kana si ko mali afo ko yara karo mini mosi falet. Real-time knowledge about the dump sites in the Gambia. The problem is not unique. Because waste management problem in the Gambia is not unique to KMC. And the problem exists in Banjul, it exists in Brikama, it exists in KM, it exists in major cities in the Gambia, Farafenya, Soma, Basse, and all other places. But why do you think, this Jeng guy and, those ladies, animo kotongole ko kata protest lala? Because Jeng ita lafta nunga kek mayo de KMC madita. Itata NPP yakumati sivabe for jeki alka dom side or alka video tower alko you are fighting somebody. Yeah, alka talib min alka kelemana family. Alko waste management is a problem, in KM. Where is waste management not a problem in major towns in the Gambia? Tell me. Because I have had the opportunity to understand, and of course work with quite experts, both at ministerial level and of course at, council levels in the Gambia, trying to solve the complex issues around waste and waste management in the Gambia, trying to look at integrative mechanisms that we could put in place. But it's not attainable simply because it's not just sustainable what we could have done. Let me just give you, free advice on this. Because when you look at it, Banjul has Tambana. Now, the Tambana dump site is worse than Bakote. You know why? Tambana is just by the mouth of the river. It's directly connected to the water body. And waste is directly dumped on it just like that. And this includes medical waste from RVTH. Imagine you are dumping that just by the water body. Geo, ni high tides found at a geo kaduna or dump side. Along some of those things are washed away into the river. Who knows the level of pollution that could actually cause? Who knows, the level of waterborne, problems that could actually cause in the water body? But alaman problem jawoluna because aliyem mole kong alaman la fala la kula mandia la kong rang karekele without any basis for it. So you have the same problem because every waste in Banjul is dumped at Tambana, where you know that it's an open dumping just by the water body. If you look at the the characteristics of that dump site, you know that it's the most unfit place to actually dump anything. But that's not a problem for you. But look at Backwater. When Backwater was demarcated as a dump site, those communities you talk about, where were they? Were they there at that time? No. Gambia has a, what I refer to as urban planning problem. And this actually, trends way back to the PPP regime. And up till date, KM being the most populous, urban area in the Gambia will face significant challenges of waste management because every household generates waste, and of course this waste needs to be dumped, and of course they are doing everything they can humanly possible to make sure that people are not living with waste in their houses. But I need a problem in Backwater because you felt that the people are, around the dump site. But itaman dimbaja Malaka Wodla because they are trying to contain the site. But whereas even Dimbabe Malakanje, and then you see the same problem in Brikama because Fenko Bedaming Ikafanya did, Brikama, I think Brikama's dump site is what is Tambana. The other one in Banjul is just by, or prison police around the prison area, that end. But then if you go to Tambana dump site, you realize that Hadamadun will encroach all the way even into the park. More natala up to that point, me along you bungol lola for say bena dunkang fenko kone kavaje dump site on. So people are living just by the dump site and they are digging wells and of course drinking from those wells. There are systematic problems that are happening in our country, but because it's a physical planning problem, and that was not addressed from a long time. And there was a time I do remember, like exactly, mile 2 dump site. So mile 2 me along obe fenko bala, obe water body bala, you have no problem with that. Tambana me along molbe, people are living all the way towards inside the dump site. You have no problem with that. You have no problem with that. I have never in my entire life living in Brufut saw any dump, a dump truck from any council that actually came there to actually pick any trash. Never. You had no problem with that. Waste management problem is not unique to KM. Ning hasidian in Joya Talto. What Almandra Tonyaka. Go to Farafenya, those major towns, you meet the same problem there. Go to Jarasoma, Ilogarasoro, sometimes you meet garbage there all over. Go to Basse, you meet the same problem. So the problem is not unique to any one part of the Gambia. So it's a national problem, and there was a time we sat at the Ministry of Environment, experts, UNDP and other institutions brought experts together to look at waste management problems in the Gambia and how we can actually get in a landfill. But you know what were the requirements of a landfill? If you need, like, let's say a 300 or 500 by 500, landfill or whatever, wherever landfill is, at every side of the landfill, 500 meters, no human beings can reside there. Tell me, where in urban Gambia, you will get a vast land, and then 500 meters on all sides. Where in the urban Gambia? We could not get the land because it was not attainable there. People actually made suggestions to the likes of Fonyin La Kotangol. If it has a regional for your development or Sambalani and Barankana, dump side or Fenalja. Which community will accept that? That was a fundamental problem. But even whereas you have a community that accepts that we are going to give you, 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer to make a landfill there, somewhere in Fonyi or in Kiang, who is able to transport waste, entire waste that is generated in KM, generated in Brikama, generated in Banjul, every day, up and down to Atondi, Kiang or probably to the Fonyis. Socioeconomically, how are you going to sustain that? I was sitting there clearly, I clearly told them it's not possible. We could have all said, you know what, let's try and do something about it. You put the money in your pocket and go your way. First, you don't have the land. Second, you don't have the space within Combo where all this waste is generated. Third, you will not have the trucks that will be able to transfer every waste that is generated in the combos to the Phonies on a daily basis because fuel-wise, economic-wise, and of course, the cost of production of doing that at a Kenola. Moro. People who know when they listen to Balon and I'll gis nga boo xamulee dara amuloo si xam-xam da nga si mandu nkaka ñoo jow ya simply because you just hate a person iman dalili sotala ñenno mu ko de mi yalon ko is actually drilling this country back when we know what our problem is. But I'll nyabe tilimbaliani, Korean, tapaliala, nyimasa kundako, all of a sudden you have a problem of waste management in Bakote that you're actually going out to protest for. But you've seen all the criminality that is happening in this government. That is not a problem for you. You've seen the deliberate removal, if you care about the environment, you've seen the deliberate removal of the director of forestry and of course the implantation of the military at forestry. Min yalon ko amun ci xam-xam amun ci dara ñu jël leen def leen fa ngir ñom lañ adiate tolle. What did you do about that? Let's talk about the environment that you pretend to care about. Ali mu nekk woto. You've seen the presidency actually killing a hippo and of course giving it to the president as a gift, and then he also surrounding no like amira ko jalambatulal. Ali mu nekk woto. You've seen them trying to sell the monkey park. What did you do about it if you really care about the environment? You've seen them giving part of Salaji Forest to a business investor who is the founder of the regime. What did you do about it? You've seen piles of garbage in other regions, in other, area councils. What did you do about it? Moro. Yalon tonyamo kilineti. When I listen to somebody else in another political party, I'm going to na mi for the wall of the malo mandong, tonyata no fola da buka fania for the lata wala kato ngole jato. But if I also see you trying to fight another person, me along ko tonyata no lebeje, you are just after some cheeky political propagandist coming out trying to tell people, oh no, we have a waste management problem. Tell me how you are going to solve it. That is one thing I ask of you. Anywhere on any platform, I'm willing and able to listen to any one of you and listen to your solutions. And of course, if you are protesting, you protest to write a petition to actually deliver. Tell me what exactly your demand is and what is your proposed solution. Nothing. Because they can't solve nothing. Because they don't even know what the problem is. And political doaka for a tembo doto, you don't need to sit back to say, when the sila ninga for caranyol kara mira teninte moro. Hey, Jamabe Nkonombenga Nokwa, Nsula da Falindro, Lada Kurbe Damin Kaimo Moro. We need a vibrant young person who will challenge the regime heads on. Amanke Modemi Yalonko, Alpha Balo Miyalonko, you always look at some things. No, we need somebody who is radically honest and ready to fight tooth and nail to make sure that we salvage this country through the thick and thin. Nia Lonko, you are not resilient, you are not strong enough. Please don't be part of that movement because it is meant for resilient, strong-headed people who meant business to make sure that moro tilimbalia mimbe nyimbanko kangay dang. Woto nyinlo mkultimbe nyabe minna. For some people, I will not get into their cases, I've seen somebody trying to, dole post talking about Mama Jabinko, Mama manke more credible linda, manke more candidate. Amanke modemi alonko atilinda. Momodu Sabale, I saw you came there, you insulted me and quickly blocked me. I will not talk about you because hormone imbunya latamida ntani to tema. Anumbeda na walto kadu malte musulale. Bara ninkom kumatilimbala folon dro. Morale alon kila alon dele no wala. Fudi rewla. Fudi nyak kom hamadila. Fudi jaay lenen la. Waye jaru ko xana lu ko fi jar. Waye kuy top di la block rek xamal ne amna lum ragal nga wax ko waye ñun liñ wax dara because xorom woni bu ñaadro ne tambiran tol natol tema. So dunya be wala ñama. Abdul Nasser Mambala wala. I'm not saying nobody has, you don't have a right to protest. Everybody has a right to protest. But rights goes with responsibilities, right? You also believe that. And you would, of course, accept that, right? So if you tell me today, Nyindulakari, the dump site is not well managed, we are going to protest, tell me what your solution is. The complex nature of waste and waste-related issues in the Gambia is beyond just an average mind in the street who knows nothing about the subject discipline to think about, oh, I'm going to protest to solve this. How are they going to solve it? Can they tell us? Or you don't want a dump site there. You know, the problem has always been in the Gambia. All three major dump sites in urban Gambia, Tambana, Mile 2, and Ingbakote, are not ideal at all. There is no proper waste management in the Gambia entirely. So now, if there is no proper waste management, let's say now put in an integrated waste management system. What are you talking about? You want to actually get, a landfill. Where will you get it? I've already discussed that. At some point, wherever you get a landfill, you need a huge distance where humans cannot reside in. But which community are you going to take it? Sate jumala be sonna ko moro manda kara mo felali manda loptanol fena bara mbena banko bela west mbena wala dompla la sate ko na jam. Who will agree to that? Tell me where in Combo that you will get that. Since land has become, a commodity, since the commodification of land and it has become, buying and selling as a trade, nobody, even a single meter will give to anybody for anything like that. So these are failures of planning that should have been done 60, 70 years ago. That never happened. So you cannot blame somebody who is trying to manage those crises in the best way they can, simply because you actually belong to a particular political group that you are trying to use your, political manipulative tactics, trying to make people believe that you have a genuine cause to fight something. What exactly are you fighting? Nothing. No ban golo xam nga ne gen ngi afen ko atondi afen yo jam fatal fera sonna wala. So that's just the fact about it. Now you look at all the speeches made. Agriculture minister. Imagine this person telling us, and then you look at how disoriented these people are, because the agriculture minister will talk about a certain number of tractors that we are giving. The minister of information will come and give a higher figure. These two do not even match. But it is the same government that actually sees tractors from farmers and give them donkeys. They care about the Gambia. But imagine a Senegalese media personality sat on a Senegalese media to talk about, diplomatic passport issues in the Gambia. The minister had to go all the way to Senegal to sit on a Senegalese TV trying to justify that. But a fon tolo mu bulu kono mo ledde ba. Fon tolo la banko la ko ni Senegal yo fon tolo nyanda tala wodo kata justify wodo. Fon tolo be Senegal la bulu ba. But wala mu to nyate mu tolo mu bulu kono. We don't even have our sovereignty. We are actually in the hands of, at the mercy of Senegalese government. That is why the minister had to go all the way to Senegal trying to convince the Senegalese population. What business do they have in our internal affairs? Ning ayat ratul be minna wala mu to nyate. You could have write your communique and sit there and let it be. Why do you even have to go to Senegal to sit on a Senegalese TV if you are just not idle? Alanga tonya ko inu nyola. Tonya la ka banko samba manke ino nyona karoti. Kuma kalantama buka banko samba. Baral fuar ya jibenu na banko kandro. Nothing that they do is based on empirical evidence, because this is the government that takes fertilizer and give farmers to go and throw on their soils, expecting that they will have bumper harvest. Agriculture there is a new dynamic in the political leadership that needs to sift in the Gambia for people to understand that the millennials and the Gen Zs and the technological advancement of the world need to get to our country, and of course that requires digitalizing our economy, and of course making sure that agriculture is dependent on empirical evidence and investigations. That includes, before you put any fertilizer on a soil, you know what it lacks and what it needs, not just a government that politicizes fertilizer application to soils, where you are intoxicating the soil, and of course productivity levels are going down because you don't even know the fertility requirements of those soils because you did not test anything, and you have an agricultural research institute that is just filled with people who studied agricultural economics and not pure researchers on the subject matter on soils and other things. They don't have all the technological equipments to actually do those. You go and buy NPK and I'll fertilizers do the Senegal. You don't even know how much the soil requires. That is just like you did not even know the prognosis of the person. You start giving them HIV/AIDS pills because imalong problem mimbala. You don't know the deficiency because people don't even understand. It's the Gambian who will sit on TV, a politician, and tell you, oh, we have arable land, we have fertile land, we need to go to agriculture, but you know, dabano matala kata do ko la. Jumala beta do ko kela tolle. Jumalom nyama tolle men beta ko kela tolle. Ratole si office ko naka mo we go and do agriculture. Your president is on vacation, but in tajala foko na kunko be janneto. And you tell us that you have done what, you know, the APRC and PPP combined never did. What did you do when it comes to the agricultural sector? That is why the agricultural sector needs transformation, 360 transformation, to make sure that there is that mechanization, and of course, production and productivity will be based on empirical research and evidence. Just like environment and environmental management. Whatever we will be doing is like you go and throw your seeds and come back and say, ala warta. Ala warta all mutonyati. Bareka kato fanankele. And Masakunda Lenyanta to create those enabling environments, and this government will never do it because they don't care. Menga tractor table like a follow deal. I am roll beta makwela purenya to tasodoji. People got to see beyond those little political differences. Collectively, but a lot of people that you see keep cross-carpeting from one political party to another. Look at their profiles and look at what they are contributing to society. Moro, alanga barakanno, alinka katano. Nima kata dreba kela bulukono molta, and then you will always live following people and some of this political nonsense. It fota so nola because it fengo fenade kan do be sonna wala kari ta sonta bulukono moyalla. Do am kadu. Purunga am dundu say, you know, you have to go and be babysitting some of these politicians. Hani nya bele be tilimbali ale be kula min to nyata no be caring. Mukudi hada madungo ala kata. If you want to improve the state of your country, you definitely got to work hard. And every person who believes in the ideas and the ideals of the UMC, you have to work hard. You have to be seen to be productive. You cannot sit and expect that, oh, things will come to me. You have to believe, oh, yeah, whatever you can do to make sure that meaningful change is brought to this country. Because at the end of the day, and then there is that enabling environment for everybody to strive, then everybody will be out there to work hard for their own good. I saw one guy, Obo Mingaka joined the UMC, something job. I don't even know him. You come to my Posika Fanyako, where is Gala? I was part of Gala. Even whereas I support the initiatives and everything that is in Gala. Is Gala a political party? Is Gala a political entity? You join UMC, I'm going there, but almost video Facebook, when people look at you, they see shame and nothing else. Ni malla wala kana dunje but ni bota je fane la fore amota yede you go wherever you want to go, but you cannot come and adunda jabo mo buka le come for nobody, and then you want to come and tell me, oh yeah, bro ma gom gala lu ñoy def bu nek election ñu oté sama gena support len nu ma nexe yow lo ci mun ngol lata wala lata lako tilimbal yala be mbanko kan lata lako ye auditor general bondi minne ma bondi to nyaka anun lata lako ita nyanta lala wala andu ita nyanta wala support la wala anu ni be findi la nyanta findi la wala kan kaje ko to nyani tilingo sabati wala ni tamal la wala lata munala. So what do you believe in? And what is the difference between you who questions why people support Gala and what the political party you support that wants to come to power? Wala tina hadaman woni be diamula and then people who are analytical will sit back and listen and say, it's good that some people leave. The good thing is when some people leave, it exposes who really they are, because you need genuine, transparent, and of course resilient people. If you don't have that resilience, you can never be an opposition in a government where it is the major employer, and of course it uses it against people. If you have a business in there, they will cripple your business. They will do everything possible to make you suffer so that you join them. Kati yake moja mala janne nyayeje. Na wali jele binin wala dia mutafai kafu pare karlo nyinti. Wala na hada madungo kukili ni wala koida re kato wala koida. If you are not self-reliant, you are not independent, you cannot be a politician. What will you tell anybody? What do you bring to the table? That's what I got to learn from America. Nobody cares about what you do if you definitely bring nothing to the table. Wala atinna dole be jeni Donald Trump jaga way ji mbalo firindala moro wala ta wala kato ilata wala imalla kom diam fur mo nim fenkola. What do you bring to the table? Nothing, bro. Get out of here, man. Get out of here. So whatever will be history or no history, you join something because of your, conviction and of course commitment to it. What will be history is basically not to be determined by you. You know what is mostly history? Political establishments and incumbents that are defeated. Because more mini beka tara wol no mo wol beka tara je ila nafala no ma ni wo bota je drong e beka janjanne. So what albe daming altu woto. Ani mol beta tala opposition nyara kale to wol kaja fila dunta ja boda janna o mam mo nafa fenna jang. The opposition need a united front to actually oust that regime. So the common denominator here is basically the regime that is hell-bent on, suffocating the Gambian people yet pretending to love them. Because what they do is they are very civilized in the way they do things and they smile at you and they are very nice with you, yet they are killing you without you realizing. Go to a health sector. I remember the time I had to do an elbow surgery in the Gambia. Man, I had to go online to really check for whatever reason. We went to one of the hospitals. Staying at home was way better than going to a hospital. That tells you how dilapidated some of our health infrastructures are. Dami yalonko dobiji ani glofo fanga buka soto. Dami yalonko dindin tawrawla wala minta mbida wala yole be faje me fa fenna fop simply because of malgovernance, corruption and malpractices. Atolo ko wama sakundala nyanta kontinela ni wale kumandiro ko mobe na findina imal dingol la fa wala atinna. Imal dingol la fa ya muru ya dol dingol mutake sorom tapaliani tilimbaliani jawyaka foki la telefono la mutaka format ka foko nyisa matakar nyol la dum ya lon ka manke tonyata manke tilimote 2 years 1 month 21 days the government is completely silent on it. Eti amana masakunda mi ya lon ko ibulu medo simedo imam kunoje and ite ya lon ko itela nyantan tolbela tanko fenkela. You refuse to say a word about that, but yet you gave 1 million to mama and of course audit reports have confirmed that. We told you when you are determined to incarcerate this young man on false pretense because Aldalta Walla, you falsely actually accuse people, you prosecute them on your false narratives, and of course you can't incarcerate them on your false allegations. In our criminal justice system, because you cannot just go and pick this Yafa, judges somewhere, or how do you call them? Not even judges, lawyers from anywhere. You come and give them big positions in the Gambia when Gambians, competent Gambians within the Gambian jurisdiction could handle some of those positions. But Alta Adila Gambia dingola because Al Jowiata, Lala Hasidiata, Lal Malafi Gambia no offense to the Namankal Famulti. Imagine you can tell me that Gambians cannot be principal magistrates in our own country after almost 25 years of university education in our own country. That you go and pick riff-raff Nigerians from the street. You go to their LinkedIn, you look at their profile. They were teaching in one cheeky university. They have little experience in the practice of law. But then you ke principal magistrate. Almalla Gambian wala bara tapalean in tilimbalia mimbalto wala kaldu wala because nali wala bula minna droibo wala kela. Alafa wakawa and tolman sila mola de. This your new because your DPP, Director of Public Prosecution, was so frustrated with the case. He withdrew himself because you don't want to give these positions to credible Gambians. They don't care. They only care about their monetary gains. They will do anything dirty for the regime. That is why you brought in people like Wakawa. Oronte have nothing against the opposition, if not the regime. So if you have any issues in whatever of your political party, deal with it. ina na mafanya na join na political party ina na mafanya moro ka nyimi foten ko late la ko la ina na mafanya fanko moro be nyadi ina na mafanya fanko ko sabe sinko da bi ta kana fonde ko no you should not do this, you should not do that ita nda balon fam fota rabbi yayi ina hamsa bopa du saga ko nga fale ko mondo nyami marse ko na si se mi a kilo bidin ya tay marse ko no mana chocho so wol yengal no wala ñu disturb. But that's not really the point here. The focus is on the regime. And we've actually looked at the health sector. You look at these waste management issues that some of you are manipulatively trying to bring up. You basically look at agriculture in our country. But look at cemento mi yalong kwa kasankeme wara wala almost mani bodo songa silang. Simply because alman lafi cemento la minka bona Senegal. Kakara cemento bodo na Egypt nindula kota ngulat. Wanyon tilimbali ala famo bekeri. Senegal since the 1940s or probably earlier was producing cement, and it is way cheaper to get it from Senegal. You don't have cement, you don't produce it simply because other business is not crippled simply because you want to monopolize the sector and give it to just one single individual who is a primary funder of the regime, just to cripple the economy and of course subjugate the citizenry who actually need to construct. It malonko all those construction money is coming into the Gambias, uplifting the economy and of course giving a lot of work to construction workers. But simply because you want to make maximum profit out of it to inject it into your politics to continue to subjugate the people and pretend to be liking those people and loving those people. But they are not thinking in reality. Barasake momo la ke kunkili nabe do ko la masakunda wala fana mbela palaso la kanda kay ko buto al be ngata jal be ngata wuri je ale din mere ngol karamundo din ngol be ko na ale wuri ni je moro Gambian ko la nyanda jale ko tonya nyim masakunda malla fin to la nyaato tale malla fin na Cairo la non ibe minna ja nyanta danale na man dam fonna toro ni na bata min be jede ngo bata abuka korda kartu je ay sawun korda kardo. Bata does not know the household of an opposition or the regime. Bata does not know if you are white, red, or a Caucasian. It doesn't know it. It doesn't pick and choose. So mimbembe na fala ninko mbebe na kunkilin na fala jibela. At the end of the day, amanda mo na fala. Wala atina sunyaro sembo wararing. Aggression is all over. Theft and banditry is all over. Simply because nimmolo batate mam baluo soto moro. Ye minno e bola kela kabalu kada mote fon jibela ko konko efa. Andu wala be kidding. Andu nyina muto nyati. How many families are going to sleep without food in the Gambia? How many people have we turned into beggars? How many people in even the civil service have we turned into civilized beggars? Because tell me, in terms of basic living costs, what can a $50,000 do for a family? Soko korda bakunda. But this government does not even care about bringing some of the things down. Imagine you didn't you even come publicly to actually downplay that it is just normal. Ko Gambia la mtana na maja dunia adlado kullu minister kafinda kavo ko kana solo fine kan. Your minister of health is another case, man. Ne sector dol jiwe kavo ko wala balado la beti, but come and look at the Ministry of Health. You know mko de minister. What a political for temple to me alonko, it has to be based on ideas, it has to be based on principles, it has to be based on innovative ideas, it has to be based on moro. It is a mune keno mi alonka santola balunya falling. It is a mune keno mi alonka santola bada latanga. It is a mune keno mi atinantolsa bono molobulu mini alonko. They are dining with this regime to subjugate our communities, to leave us with unsupportable burden of environmental degradation, sharing our lands among ministers and everything. Imagine masakunda mi alonko kamuro wule lulula. Neno masa kundari ntolo konka wuru wole kabulo kosi wole wala nyendo kali akeku sonsolo tolo. Bare mfango la sungolo mukade kabonna kordal la kono wala tinanka murun ke support ko dange. So it defines what our society is, and that is basically what we got to change. The definition of what our society has got to change, and people got to be honest, and then we can only do that through a united front and believing in a youth-led leadership. Mi ya lonko moro. Because what we see in our country is mostly these intergenerational differences. Tonyala siata more betty. But we actually live in a socio-cultural society wherein you can't even tell somebody a little older than you more because those are the cultural norms that we normalized. Abu ko mo jata sonna kata le ka foy ko karan dol bela harjebe kar la bul harjebe nyuma la bul ala nga kata no nga do ko ke. You've seen a lot of people coming into the Gambia, coming from other countries. You know, you go to some parts of Combo South, near Waltara, Nyinka Kumba Fe, Doku Balebe, Doku Kela. They're actually injecting a lot of products in our food economy. They're actually putting in a lot of efforts in it. But Gambia didn't my bola jalata, Kunga garden bale jang, are putting in a lot of fruit crops here and there to actually supply to Nana Doku Ngakatam Famay. Molbe Kerne Minibe Kadoka Kambara Molbe Kerne Mini along Kolia Mine to be Balule Dal. Ko itol dan lebe balun la nyami ne political furumo muino ka molla banko continue to subjugate this country instead of working hard for the common interest of everybody. Nyen lom kulde min nyanta danna anu wolbe danna no nyami wala ka tonya tamandi ka tonya fonno nyoy andu nga nyo hanyine nyola ka tonya fonno nyoy wala ka ndeke baba dela banyum folande rek ke baba fa dela siara tonyat. Nyen lom kulde min nyanta danna to don tollata loko Gambia sulata funding ke nyaton ko yalla mi yalon ko ndam malbe hanyila ka tonya fonno nyoy andu ndam malbe nyo kontibola ndam malbe nyo tilindila kula mi yalon ko is for the greater good of the country and not individual interests and not the interests of personality cult moto kala moy jam kotanki. And then the collective good of this country is when we all unite to ensure that ngajoko hey nin tilin tonyata no mindinga vo nyimo tonyata no ta edang nin tilingo mindinga vo tilingo nyinnete kadu sanji tang almost constitution kutama sodo Gambia molbe fare National Assembly ke fangol jo clothing allowance la ka moto bal di fangol la ka pare fangol di fangol la ka murum fangol ka sidin allowance bal di fangol la ka molla lansul fangota ka di fangol la sa e murunta ko ko hani sanji tanke je to beta retirement la no be jola la han do jolo fangol be je ko fo hani ngi dingol fangol jo ina ni ajo dunia do dad mun doldo you work just for 10 years and you are paid hell lot of retirement. What kind of work did you even do? You cannot even promulgate any single bill. Either you cannot even write basic English. How can you even write a law for any country? We got to continue to be ruled by the kakistocrats, the weakest in our society. You don't actually need to go to school to be intelligent. You don't need to actually go to formal school to actually know what is right. You go to people, they vote you in. You cannot even put in any conscious law to the country. Where is the constitution? Nowhere. But albeji alko ni moli atolo balineng atolo min be National Assembly ni mansa kunda dokwal. Also all sorong. But not atolo yentolo balinendu. Atolo le bala furu antoli. Nalia molla mamol nila sate nyaton kol ni mo natol ye wal neng womu tanalti bara ni mo yatol masakunda dokula wala tol National Assembly member neng wal nyanta soron nala wal nyanta tala kitiol la atol lom jumalti. Imagine that is just animal farm fisamante ya ali wala dundal ni molo tema minika carte fa yatol ye bara Gambia no lebe wonyama But we will cut it here because, the next time we will look at the higher education sector. When you cannot even, help the existing institution to actually get to its right footing. What kind of a requirement are you going to put in there? But simply because you just want, baro mo fi def langen fi def budul sacha ale rew mi. Budul rey policy ba pare di fenal di tumal ay doomi jambur ay doomi gor ñoo xamantene atol man Gambia Allah Gambia di yamantara wal ñaato alman baraka walti alman ku keñum banko ka wal man minke baral be wuldal bal sañol wulen la ko tele jato fa barale jata jumala fa aja hana maduma mi yeke kuti ninni na tawala lon ko hasid yalla be mari to drom Imagine standing on a political platform, you're trying to ridicule somebody's academics. We will put you on a microscope. How can you even go and study bombsing? Political scientist later, and then you are a professor, you can tell people what their grades are. When in reality, you actually study, manipulative tactics of young people in bombsing, both at the beach and of course in Brikamala, cyber cafe. Ite wala karang. Womu manipulate manipulation and everything gold. That is the art you understood. But I think somebody needs to do another paper beyond just tourism to actually look at it as political manipulative tactics of people in politics in the Gambia, including many political party law, simply because they will use that to join the regime and get positions. Should be a paper somebody should investigate and understand that is also another manipulative tactics of people, because this is what you studied, this is what you know. But what benefit or essence is that to the Gambia? Ko funding kel ka tubabolu na kartene puriye soto puriye fuduno puriye ta tubabolu puriye kodo soto bul in the cafes and in the beaches. That is simply to inform. That is what I basically refer to as narrative informant. So you are just a narrative informant to inform on your citizenry, because funding kel ni wala baluda be wala reda kata narrate to babol ya wala nyindiko e ka to babol le karande puri bento la funding kel lamfe la nyamin kato wala ka manipulative tactics so le use pour ke tol soro no puri fane balu sodo ite lafta wala baluda la soro na kato karawa nyanta society la mako la bara ite la kanonga society le tinya society ka baluda min fon ite lafta wala fon tinya ite mure ko ka modol la karango question, when in reality you studied manipulative tactics of cyber hustling. What is cyber hustling? But don't try to actually use your politics to try to ridicule other people. We can see knowledge and wisdom, and we can see just empty papers. That is a difference between knowledge and papers. Because the origin of knowledge is actually from the home. This is what you don't know. No matter what level of education you get, and if you don't understand your environment consistently and progressively, Karasi Gambia ngarasi badaro ka fonin kel jibe ka tubabol bombs nyami ngata. I just put a narrative discussion on all of that ngata ko I got a dissertation here and there. What exactly have you helped solve societal problem? Because intellectually some of those things are there to actually look at issues of society and bring about meaningful change to society. But society from na figure funding kel into babol team ka wala mot na nga tubabo case nyami dara nyanda kara ko tubabo le puri wala pur ni na reno ka balambul barangol ngal kondong ngal tendu ngal jay. This is just what we wanted to say, and to have these conversations gradually, before we come on here, and like I said, more konna simply because awululali akata la famari for the level of the wajibega akaranjole tolmufanga malati tolmudo balati, and Baro trying to play those cards is just evil, because Baro didn't want to be. I bunjangol mini belo ayelon na kodolela. Karon tolla ke kuti bi ni Gambian ko ntem Baro monet. Who knows Baro yesterday? But if you are not grateful to people, baral ka mol jibal ke kong emoja nala mo bor la ite mala o mo so do nyami mala we batamin ke ko so do dreko no ela mo ala mo so do ko man dia nyam bem fonyala unyo hasidia and then like people on principle dislike them because there is a reason to do so. But not simply because konnante yani hasidia o mbanko sambanyato. And that kind of politics will not work with the regime. Otombe min ko indul na nyola wala nyende ko tapaliani tilimbaliani sunyarol nin kurial mimbe Gambia bankoka wala nyanta danna. And abedanna nyaming is for us to collectively come together and don't sit on the fence. Kapogo boy mbanyi do not mean it's not about mbanyi or you're procrastinating. Come in with conviction and believe in what you are doing, and know that it is not going to be an easy ride. It was never an easy ride anywhere. But believe in what you believe in, and believe in the heart to make sure there is meaningful change in the Gambia. And eventually that is exactly what would happen. To make sure that there is that uniform platform for every Gambian without any discrimination, irrespective of region, ethnic, or wherever you come from. Either you are black, white, or whatever. That some people go in their little cocoons to define, characterize, and dekal funyu dekut wolo nak mo fi je degarek moy mujje odo bari ngol ngal tendu ngal jay bige we speak manjago the next time because mekalomba bugo manjako bu mebling ne obarare bangol galen tawndi, and those people will be with us. That's family, man. Love and respect it yalo na nyadi lom nge kondom man ngai alama atilo to diala. Thank you very much, body.